Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Venkatesh Kolluru with us. A brief about Dr. Venkatesh. He has done his bachelor's in biotechnology from Andhra University. For master's in biotechnology, he attended University of Alberta Dundee in Scotland, and then PhD he did in cancer biology from Technical University Darmstadt, Germany, and currently he is a senior technical consultant at BioPathogenix. With this brief introduction, we'd like to welcome Dr. Venkatesh by saying thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, Raja. Thanks a lot.
So we always start our conversation by asking that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
This takes me long back when I was doing my bachelor's. So I did it from Andhra University, and that's when during summer holidays I went to one of the research institutes in Bangalore. And I mean, coming with no knowledge regarding, in depth of how biotechnology and different genomic techniques work. I wanted to take some experience. That's where I went to a research institute in Bangalore and then did some DNA RNA extractions, running it into a gel, and that's what excited me because I was always we were about always reading about DNA as a double helical structure. So I was imagining in my mind that we would see it as a double helical structure, but it was pretty much like a small pellet or a string, and then running through the gel, a small band, and that's what DNA is. And then how we can manipulate DNA and do such wonderful things with humans or within the mice. So that's what excited me, and that's when I was more interested in pursuing this career.
Great. So normally it is always like, people who happen to start research and then start knowing about it more. Your case was like, okay, you decided the different route. So from
Yeah,
your masters, what were, because sometimes people mostly move out of India for after their PhD. But in your
right.
case, what we have seen is like, apart from your bachelor's, all the education, either it is masters or the PhD, everything is from outside the country. So, what were the major reasons from first for moving for masters to Scotland and then to Germany for PhD?
So, couple of reasons. One is when I was doing my bachelor's, after I finished, I realized very quick that, most of the biotechnology research is being taken care abroad, outside India. It was like in 2008 when I passed out of bachelor's. So it was not that upcoming. It was not that developed yet. So that's when I already had some of my seniors move to Scotland at University of Dundee, and then they were doing their masters there. And when I interacted with them, I found more opportunities and more exposure, even during masters. Exposure towards conducting research in real clinical labs. So that's what excited me, and then I thought, okay, if I want to pursue a career, I guess I need to take that route.
So
So
it was research driven reason that you moved even for
yes,
for your masters. Okay,
yes,
and
yeah.
then from there to Germany.
So one year of masters I did from University of Alberta Dundee in biotechnology, and as a part of the course or the curriculum, we have to do a small research project. That's when I applied to University of Manchester, which is in UK, United Kingdom, to do a short-term project. But that short-term project ended up as a full-time job for me as a research associate.
Mhm.
So I spent like couple of years at University of Manchester, and that was the first time when I got exposed to clinical research, because the lab where I was working was a clinical lab, and the PI was a clinician. So we had easy access to clinical specimens, and we were testing like different drugs screening them in a disease model called keloid, which is nothing but extra deposition of collagen and how it leads to melanoma or skin cancer.
Mhm.
So those 2 years gave me a really great learning opportunity of what clinical research is, how a researcher thinks, and how the drugs are being developed and tested in, first cell lines and then into patients, or clinical samples. So after spending those 2 years as a research associate, I was part of a couple of papers which were, published from the lab. And that's where I was like more interested. Okay, if I want to pursue a career in this, I need to have a PhD. I need to do my own research, having my own ideas. And then in the future, I always want to have, down the lane, 5, 10 years from now, I always want to have my own company with like-minded people, so that we brainstorm ideas, generate revenue, make some serious advancements towards therapies. So that's the whole idea. So that 2 years basically made me make my next move towards doing a PhD.
Okay. So, like starting from getting a job, because mostly, at least for India, how we see that as like people try to secure a job first and then think about other things. In
Right,
traditional, like 20, 30 years ago, it was like you have a job and then you go for a PhD. In
right.
your case, it was you had a job first, you
Yeah,
were interested always in research, but
yeah,
now you want to become even more independent as a researcher, coming up with your own research question and
right,
then work on it, solve it. So
right.
how was the journey of your PhD?
The PhD journey was, I would say, it was a roller coaster ride, but I wouldn't say it's too hard because thankfully I was in a group where funding was never an issue. The PA was too good, and I should say this. Germany, I would say, if anyone wants to do their PhD, go for Germany because the work-life balance is too good. It's not a rat race as we see it in US. So I would always, and there are a lot more scholarships available for PhD students. Like I got a DAD scholarship, which is like very hard to crack down, but I was fortunate enough with my prior research experience, which I already had, that helped me stand out compared to other applicants. So yeah, I would say it's both good and also a roller coaster ride, because when you are doing a PhD or research in general, it's never a positive outcome. You fail so many times and then you realize from your mistakes, and then you find out ways how to do it differently, and come up with positive results. But again, I mean, we are all are in research. We know that even negative outcome is a result. So we still have to accept it and publish it. But overall, it was very fruitful
Mhm.
and worth my time and dedication towards that.
Lovely. So this is for all the young researchers who want to do PhD outside India. So for you, there is a suggestion which now I think people have started working on, that you can join any research lab in India, get yourself trained, because as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, that sometimes what it needs for your application to stand out from the pool, what they are screening, is that are you even aware of distantly what you are going to do? If somebody has done some techniques or some skill set already, they have earned it. For a PI, it is so easy to pick that person over anyone else, because they know that the amount of training investment, either it is time or resources, they have to input is less than compared to a naive person who have no idea how to either set up those experiments or even thinking them through in terms of infrastructure, that how much they will need it for like the consumables for number of years. So all these things which at the beginning I believe that no researcher think of that how important they can be, but as
Yes.
and when you moved in the ladder you start thinking it more like even cautiously sometimes, that neither you want to propose a lot of funding, like when you are
Right.
asking for funding you have
Yeah.
to be reasonable,
Yep.
keeping the research question also reasonable. So, with that being said, so when you completed your PhD, what was the first thought? You were like, okay, now I'm about to submit my thesis.
Right.
So,
So
what was it?
as soon as I like completed my thesis, submitted, defended it, and then I was thinking, debating between whether to continue as a postdoc in Germany versus coming to US and then exploring the US market. Because at that time, due to some family reasons, because I was married in the last year of my PhD, and then my wife, she already had a job here in US. So it was like, okay, it would be a win-win situation for us to move to US and then explore the market there, because US is a global market for biotech and pharmaceuticals. So I came to US as a postdoc at University of Louisville. So I spent there almost 5 years working on prostate cancer, bladder cancer, and breast cancer, but majorly focusing on prostate cancer, and then helping my other colleagues with other indications in the space. So that's for those 5 years were also, I would say, eye-opening and a learning experience for me with respect to writing grants, developing your own ideas in more in depth, collaborating with different groups or PIs, and then taking an idea from very raw to a more um uh, to a more fine-tuned version, and then submitting it for either K99 during the early stages of the postdoc, or R21 or R01. So those were all really nice experiences which I gained during the postdoc time.
Mhm.
Having
So,
said that, I would also advise all the y- young postdocs who are just passing out of their PhD and doing their first postdoc, start building up nice relationships within the university setting where you are. If possible, start to always have a research developed in such a way it is like clinically relevant. So you're Because every university present in US, what I have seen is closely collaborated, or they have a university clinic nearby. So try to collaborate with clinicians as well, so that you, in your project, smaller or bigger, try to involve that clinical aspect and try to test it on clinical specimens. Because when you write grants or when you write any proposals, that's what people are looking for. Clinical aspect of it. Research aspect, yes, we as a researchers, we all have ideas, we would develop into it, but clinical aspect, it's like a cherry on the cake.
mhm,
That gives you an edge, because ultimately, whatever drug you develop, whatever mechanism you come up with for any molecule, it has to go to clinics.
yeah,
So early on, if you try to adopt it into your research setting or research proposals, and try to work on clinical specimens, then that makes you stand out. That's again
absolutely.
small suggestion. Yeah.
No, no, this is very important because the change now from fundamental, like some people call that as fundamental, some people call it as foundational research, and
Right.
now we are more into translational research. That whatever you are working today, how
Yeah.
early or quicker you can make it either a service out of it or a product out of it. So
Right.
that is well said. So when you have like tasted the research in Scotland, Germany, United States,
Mm-hmm.
based on the different places, different work environments, including India, what you can suggest to the researchers in general, either from different part of worlds, that what are the different things they should consider when they are thinking of moving out from one country to another?
I mean, I would say think about the prospects first because because when I came to US for doing my postdoc, honestly, I didn't have any idea about what kind of visa you would be getting. I mean, I was told that, I would be on a J1 visa. So visa situation is something which is very important for any of the international researcher or student when they come to a new country. For example, when I was always under an impression that, okay, you would be getting an H1B, because most of our Indians, we come to US and most of them are from the software side. Very limited ones are into research. And I was not having an idea. I was thinking like I would get an H1B and then things will be pretty normal. And then only once we get in here, we have J1, 2-year residency rule, getting all the NORIs from India, and then, that's itself is a journey.
Mhm.
You're already dealing with your funding situation in the lab, research, a lot of work that's been put in the labs, and apart from that, you have to deal with the immigration part as well. So that
Mhm.
is something which is a very important aspect, which would, if you know what you are getting into with respect to immigration side, I guess you already met half of the battle.
Yeah.
You already fought half of the battle there. So the rest falls in place. The rest regarding your funding situation, whether your relationships with your peers or your PI, everything will fall in place. That is again individual. But most
Mhm.
important thing I would say is what are your prospects even after you get out of PhD? What are your prospects of, like, there are two different ways. Either you can go towards having a career in academics, like applying for grants, getting successful there, being a you know PI, initially an instructor and then a assistant professor and then a professor, or you do your PhD. I mean, again, I'm talking specific to US here. You do your PhD, get into a postdoc position, and then straight go to industry. Or if you're doing already a PhD here, you would get an OPT or something, and then straight jump into the industry. You need to determine your path where you want to go, either towards academics or towards the industry, and then take that step.
Absolutely. And this is something which we always talk about in these conversations, that when you are committing yourself to a PhD, because
Yeah.
that is it's like for most of the people, that is the longest commitment, because for any time after that, it can be a small postdoc, it can be long postdoc, it can be
Right.
multiple postdocs, but the commitment is not that huge as it is in terms of when you are saying that, okay, now I'm ready to do a PhD. It is a
Yes.
lot of commitment, and it is good to have this clarity that what you are going to do with that degree,
Yeah.
as you mentioned,
Exactly.
that prospects. And then when you decide that, okay, now you have a degree from any country and you move, you want to move, this is even more important for international scholars in current scenario, when the visa issues, because immigration is a real thing. When you
Right.
are in India, you are not even aware of that, what your peers have to do if you have international scholars in your
Right.
either research group or in collaborations.
Yeah.
So it is good to educate yourself. If you think that you already have mind, like where are the labs you are going to work with, or even collaboration, because some of the things
Right.
which we have seen that started as collaboration, then people
Right.
move out.
Right.
So be very knowledgetable about your immigration thing, because what has been
Right.
seen, as you mentioned about J1 and H1, these are different kind of visas.
Yeah.
Because at the time when you have an offer, you are
Yeah.
super pumped. You are like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm moving out. I
Yeah,
will do the brilliant research. Obviously, you are well trained. That's the reason in the first place that why you have that offer in your hand.
exactly.
But the second thing is that apart from research, there is a long way to go if
Yeah,
you have to take those, as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned about the immigration part of it,
right.
because that is not less than any research. You have to
Yes.
do, you have to build up your profile in a way. If you are
Most of
not
the times,
aware of those steps well in advance, then
yes,
it can take a lot of time, toll, and the things because you are so much focused on research.
right.
Speaking of the research in three different countries, where do you think that the work-life balance was the best?
Germany.
Okay.
There's no second thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Germany, I would say. I would give you a small instance during my PhD. What happened? I was working in the lab. It was around, I believe, 5:30 or so in the evening, and I just had to. There was a time point experiment, and I had to like wait for 15 more minutes to collect my data. Before the PI was leaving the lab, before he was going home, he usually has this habit of checking all the rooms and whether they're closed or not, or he saying bye to if anyone is left out. And the door was closed. He opened the door. It was like, Venkatesh, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just waiting for one of the time points, and then I would just collect the data in next 15 minutes and head home. It's like 5 o'clock. You should be done with your experiments. It doesn't matter if you have to do it tomorrow or next week. 5 o'clock you should be out. You have a life outside, work. So I want you to focus, on your personal life as well. So I don't want you to see next time at 5:30 or so in the office. Not even on the weekends. So plan so well your experiments so you don't have to come on the weekends. So that was like I was amazed. I was amazed. Wow. I mean, you come to, I mean, in research, it's very common that on the weekends at times you have to go, either treat the mice or take care of your cell lines, do the treatments. But in Germany, I was really shocked to see like they really give a lot of value to work-life balance. And after your permitted hours, like 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatsoever, after that, it's your personal time. No one asks you a question. On the contrary, in the US, it's very sad to say this, but it's a rat race. In US, it's always a rat race. Like, okay, if you don't do it, there are hundreds of people who are ready to do it. It's up to you. You choose what you want. You want work-life balance? Okay, maybe this is not the lab for you, or maybe this is not the country for you. And so, I mean, without any second thoughts, I would say, I mean, again, I cannot comment too much on Indian situation research because in bachelor's you're not exposed to lab work and stuff. It's you're just mostly reading and giving your exams and stuff. So I honestly cannot comment anything on Indian work-life balance there with respect to research side. But within Germany, between Germany and US, I would say any given time Germany.
Mhm. Nice. And this is for all the young brains and the PhD scholars in India who are thinking to move their next plan, like either for Europe or to United States, depending on where they are more, aligned for science. And again, this is one of those things like you know what you are gonna do, you know what you have done, so you have the skill set, you are applying. But now, as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, you prioritize that what is your priority at one point of time. You
Exactly.
are clear that, okay, with your PhD, you want to join academia in India and just want to have a short, a postdoc abroad, then probably, as Dr. Venkatesh said, probably then US is the place where you want to go publish and come back because what we know for sure that uh, Sometimes it's not only about the fundings. Indian situation have changed so much now. Either it is the tier 1 institutes who are doing equivalent or even sometimes better research than anywhere else in the world. It is you who decide that if you want to move out, why do you want to move out, what are
Yeah.
your priorities, and then never take any kind of repent on that. Because frankly speaking, in India, and I believe this is true for most of the international scholars, that they do go out, they feel homesick so bad that some of them who have courage, they actually come back. Some of them who does not have courage, or probably other prior commitments or responsibilities, they suffer their lifetime, and which is, I believe, not good for anyone. Because if you're not happy, there is no way that you can spread happiness or then you can share it. And that is one thing which I believe research trains you for in your PhD, that no matter how tough a research question is or a problem is, you always make your way through that. Speaking of the stress in research, Dr. Venkatesh, what were your ways which you have dealt with? Because one thing I can say, or I might be wrong in assuming, that no matter where you are doing research, research comes with failed experiments, which brings stress and frustration.
So, yeah, I mean, there are multiple times where I have failed in research, and that's pretty common. And I don't feel ashamed of saying this, because that's a normal thing that happens in research. Most of the time, you fail. But when I fail, then I kind of sit with my peers, and then we kind of brainstorm and see where I went wrong, or where how we could do it differently, so that ways this could be turned out into a positive outcome. So that is most important. When you fail as a researcher, don't think that you did some first doubt yourself, you did something wrong. Try to analyze the situation. When you are clear from your side that there's nothing wrong from your end, try to then brainstorm. Don't keep it to yourself, because when you are thinking about an idea, it's just one brain. But when you discuss with your peers, there are like at least two, three brains involved additionally. So they might bring an aspect which you might not be thinking, which is very useful for your research to take it further. And also it brings a healthy collaborative environment within the team. So that is one thing which that's the way I handle stress in research. And also, when there have been times where there were tight deadlines for either publishing a paper or submitting a grant, and we are like very short of data and we need to generate data pretty quick. And that's where your um, soft skills of how well you are communicating, or how well you are uh, collaborating with others within your team comes out. Because if you have good relations within your team, or your neighboring teams are collaborative, you have friends in the research settings around, they would all vouch in for you to help you reach that target. So there were times where me and my very good friend, Dr. Tyagi, we have spent like times together, even nights in the lab, away from family, meeting deadlines. So we have it very, it's very important to maintain that positive environment and collaborative effort within the team. Ultimately, it boils down to teamwork. So
Absolutely.
if there, and I always strongly believe and suggest that ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help. There's nothing wrong. Ask for help. There is only so much you can do as a single individual.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have really good, team together, y- I mean, sky is the limit.
Absolutely. Now, teamwork is for sure, I think, is the crux for research, anyways, because
Yeah.
whatever we are doing, we are reproducing someone else's either it is reproducing the ideas or the results or the experiments, because somebody has done that. And that
Yeah.
is how, in a broader way, we see that as that research is so collaborative that
Yeah.
if you have published a protocol, and then in some other part of the world somebody just took that protocol and started working, we see that as a teamwork. Depends on a researcher how you want to look at it. But as you mentioned about the brainstorming, especially when you are troubleshooting something, this is when it comes the most handy. Because as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, that when you are thinking or failing one experiment couple of times, now it is the tunnel vision which actually ensures that you are going to fail for more than the times which you have done. Because now you are like, okay, I'm just following the protocol, doing everything the way it is mentioned. But once you have these brainstorming sessions, sometimes it is a different aspect. Sometimes it's just a
Yeah.
little bit minor tweak that somebody have gone through these failed experiments, and then they realize that what is the path which leads to the success. So these are also very important parts which I believe everyone should take. And for this, what Rick is even fundamental, as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, is the building up that team. It should be a healthy collaborative environment. Because if you are in
True.
an environment where it is competitive, then probably you will not find enough of support, or
Yeah.
it can be just dead end that you can only go and ask, but you will not get any help. So
Right.
getting those soft skills also, so that people are there to support you in terms of troubleshooting, to support you in terms of, as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, about meeting the deadline, that they come to together, they work with you, so that either you can generate enough data, or they are there to help you to go through your manuscripts. Because this is how we see that a team develops and performs obviously better than anyone else.
True.
So now, moving from academic research to industry, where you are senior technical consultant at Biopathogens, how the research has changed for you, or the role.
So before even joining Biopathogenics, I would say this was during the COVID times where I was done with my postdoc for 5 years, gained enough research experience from the academic setting, and then I joined Thermo Fisher Scientific as a senior scientist. I was in the asset development team. So I spent 2.5 years there. So it's a completely different setting compared to academia. So, also, this is one more thing I would like to stress on for people who want to make a shift from academics to industry. That in academics, you have a lot of time to work on your research, but in industry, there are like strict deadlines. Either work on it, and then if it's successful, good. If it's generate revenue generating, that's good. If not, jump on to the next one. Doesn't matter of the outcome because they have a lot of fundings, and they have priorities. Main priority is revenue generation. So, uh, also when I move, although you would know like the techniques and everything is same, but the way they look at research is completely different from how we actually look at research in academics. So those 2.5 years actually was an eye opener for me, learning more on the diagnostic space because till postdoc, my whole journey was on the therapeutic side, developing and screening small molecules, testing it in different indications. But here, you're actually developing a kit for detecting any of the pathogens or any disease. So, assay development was new. You would learn a lot of techniques and you would learn industry-wide used techniques, and also the terminology. You need to gain some business acumen. So that was very good experience for me during the COVID times. So I spent like 2.5 years there, and then I joined as a senior scientist for biomarine pharmaceuticals. That was my second industry job. And again, we think that in industry also, when a candidate is been set, or a drug has been discovered, you then do all the preclinical studies as we do in academics. But none of the preclinical studies are done in-house. Everything has been contracted to a CRO, and they would do it. And straight the molecule would jump to clinical development once the results are been, given. Having this exposure is also very important, because uh, I don't know how many of the postdocs would get an exposure towards the whole life cycle, starting from drug discovery to preclinical to clinical development, and then passing on to the FDA approvals. Writing documents for FDA approval submissions, dealing with regulatory teams, and taking into the clinical trials. So I believe having this exposure makes you a better researcher, provided if you have if you have a vision to form your own company and want to do something big in the biotech or pharma space. That experience is very much needed.
Absolutely.
So I'm fortunate that I got drug discovery and preclinical experience for the very early on ones from the academic setting, and then how to develop novel assays if there is any pandemic or any infectious diseases is there, how to develop assays for it. That experience I have gained. And how the drug from preclinical to clinical phase, when it goes in the clinical development side, what kind of studies are being taken, what to consider. So these are kind of critical questions which you get to answer being in that space. So it's very important, I would say, for any researcher to be successful.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, that not many of the researchers have uh, access to all of these different stages, where starting from conceptualizing or screening a molecule to making it as a kid is
Right.
obviously a great thing to do. So, for the last part of these conversations, we always ask about the word of wisdom as per your experience, what you can share with the researchers all around.
All I can say is like, be focused, be very clear what you want to do in life. Because I was very clear from the time I got exposure to clinical research and stuff, that I want to be more on the industry side. Because people can be in academics, right? There is no right or wrong. It's just your choice and your priorities in life. So I saw the academic life. I saw the struggles of being a PAI and submitting grants, waiting for it. Your grants may be, rejected a couple of times, three times, four times. I've seen people like trying it for um, whole of their career, and then one of the researchers I know, he got his grant almost like 5 or 6 years left for his retirement. He gets his first grant. And that's a success story there. He was very determined and he fought for it pretty well. Now he is before, his retirement and stuff. He could tell, hey, I got my first RO1 at the age of this, like KFC, how he started at the
Mhm.
age of like 60 late.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you have a very clear vision, I would say prioritize on working on that, find opportunities. Um, Always when you choose an opportunity, again I would say to all researchers, or any individual, try to have a vision for long term. Like, if you take this opportunity, how is it going to help you not only in this immediate role, but to take the next step forward. So those kind of thought process would always help. And again, I'm always happy to the scientific community to give something back. So please reach out to me if you guys ever need me. Always happy to talk to young researchers and help them in any possible way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venkatesh, for the kind words and for the word of wisdom. With this, we'll say to all the audience that if you want to be in touch with Dr. Venkatesh, you can easily find him. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are more than happy to help. And for that, stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity. To Dr. Venkatesh, we'll say thank you so much for sharing the journey and igniting more research brains.
Thank you. Thank you, Raja. Thanks for that. Before we end the call, I would like to spread this word here. Raja and some of his friends are doing some great work, like helping underprivileged kids, with respect to their education. So that's a very noble cause, and thank you for doing that. I would request all the researchers to basically help them with as much as possible. And today I would be again doing my part of the share by donating some amount towards educating some underprivileged kids. So please show some respect and help the underprivileged kids with their educations, and let them also, you know, take take the world to a much better place.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venkatesh, for doing this. And we are fortunate to have you as
No problem.
our mentor. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. Thank you.